Hey everyone, thanks for coming and spending some time with me whenever and wherever you find this. This is a time for you. I do this every week at 9 a.m. on Tuesday mornings for you to hop on to ask questions, whether silly or serious, to spend some time hearing from a pastor of the Lutheran Church. Questions, answers. Today is in the middle of a big week. We had Pi Day, which was March 14th, and we are just a day away from St. Patrick's Day. So there's a lot of things going on this month and this week, and I encourage you, feel free to ask away. And it's March Madness, something that I wasn't sure was going to happen this year, but hopefully and prayerfully they are keeping all of those athletes as safe as possible as they prepare to play this season and this time of year. As I said, feel free to ask any questions. This is your time. I don't have notes. I'm not here to throw stuff at you. I'm here to see if you have any questions. Those of you who know me know I can rattle on and talk about pretty much anything. And so I'm there to answer your questions, but also to just chat for a while if you want. We've done some talk about justice in the past and about mission and reformation. So there's a lot of things that we can cover, a lot of things that we can still go deeper into. And I encourage you to take this time. And if you watch this later, please feel free to ask any questions at that time. I'll either come back and I'll answer them there in the comment section, or I will, do my next one, do my next post on it, focused on that at the beginning. So this is a time for you. As I said, it is, we're in the midst of a lot right now. We here in Pennsylvania are also in the midst of working to get more people vaccinated so that more things can safely open, and the governor is doing some more of that. So there's a lot of moving parts going on, and as we in the Lutheran Church as a mainline church continue the season of Lent, we move ever closer to the crucifixion, to the death of Jesus, but ultimately the resurrection through Easter. So that is on the forefront. That will happen in a few weeks, and you are all invited to share with us in worship. Those services will be online, but we are about to send something out that we will be doing in-person worship for some of those services as well. So please check that out. If you are not on the church's mailing list, or if you want more information, you can always reach out to me. So where do we want to go? What do we want to talk about today? Last week, I hopped on early because I was in a continuing education class for the week, an intensive through the local seminary. And it was a really powerful discussion. It was, the focus was mission and empowering the marginalized, which I wasn't sure what it was going to be like, but I was blown away by it. And I was shocked by the ability to have technology, the ability to have this class online, because that's what we did. We had it online. We didn't have it in person because that's what the seminary did. And of course, the printer decides to start printing now, if you haven't heard that. Hopefully you don't. But the amazing thing that I want to share with you this morning is that we had people from all over the world. We had a guy from Russia. We had three or four people from the African continent, and to hear their stories, to spend some time and experience what they are experiencing, what they have gone through, how they experience the church, is really powerful. And one of the requirements that we had to do was to do a presentation about some of the things that we had read about during class. And one of them, a gentleman from Africa named Timba, brought up language and how do we use titles and language in in how we describe Jesus. And I found that fascinating. And he went on to say, when we think of lords, what do we mean by that? When we think of a king, do we really, how many of us have a good understanding of a positive king? If we think of kingship now, we probably think of the English monarchy where there's a queen. So what does that mean? What do those titles mean for us anymore? Do they have that significance that they may have had back then? Or, have some of those become negative? When I think of lords, I think of the feudal system where, these people kept, had people work their land for them, paid them very little, and then, took from them, and it just was not healthy. Or in the other respect, I think of warlords, those who, fight and just kill and maim and destroy. And so that language doesn't seem to fit with Jesus and with the presence and who we're trying to show Jesus as. And I think that's what we use as those titles often. What does it mean? How do we explain that? And I thought about that a lot, and he presented on Friday, and I went back and forth with that for the last several days, trying to just wrap my head around that, and that was really powerful for me. And I wanted to share that with you this morning, because as I thought about that yesterday, my thinking went, what would happen if we said, we're going to stop a lot of those names, a lot of those things that have worldly connotations in it for a month, and replace it with something that Jesus talks about, that is a title not specifically that he claims, and that he claims it without saying it. Does that make sense? Probably not. So as we move closer to the end of Jesus' life, we get to the Last Supper, where he is with his disciples, where he shares what we in Christian understanding share as communion with them, with the first communion. But one of the things that he also does is wash their feet. And through various times in the Gospels, Jesus talks about caring for others and serving others. In this moment, Jesus washes the disciples' feet. He washes all of their feet. Think about that for a minute. Not just those disciples that would follow him later. He washes Peter's feet, the one who denies him 3 times. He washes Judas's feet, because at this point Judas was still there, the one who was set to betray him to the Roman authorities. And yet, how do we see that? What does that mean for us in this time, in these challenging times? I've seen over and over again people's comments on Facebook and in various other places, just being negative to others, those who are trying to do a good job or work hard, and just the negativity that has been spiraling. And so, getting back to this whole naming thing, what would we do? Or, instead of saying, King of Kings and Lord of Lords, what would we do if we claim Jesus as servant of all? What would it mean to pray, Jesus, servant of all? How would that change my perspective? And that's something I'm still trying to think about. My work, my call is to serve people, to care for people, to lead in worship, but also to care for our community as a whole, to enliven people to understand and explore their faith, to challenge it, to be uplifted by it, to hear this promise of God who sent Jesus to care for the world around him and around us. So what does that mean for me today? Um, and I think as I think about it, because I wrote that down yesterday, late afternoon, as I was finishing up, and what would that mean for me? And I think for me it would help me, or it would cause me to refocus a little bit, to find a new way to engage the world um, around me. It's not, and I've always tried to make it that I'm not pushing my faith on someone, that I'm not, um, trying to push it down on them, rather that it's something that they know who I am, and know where I come from, and in my faith understanding, and I'm more than willing to have conversations with anyone. But I'm not one to say, hey, you've got to believe this, or this is done this way. We have this great book of stories, of history, of promise, that we engage with, um, and it tells a meaningful and powerful story. So how then do we move forward? How as we go through these last few weeks leading up to Easter, do we see Jesus differently? Do we reform a little bit? Do we open ourselves to that notion that we talked about restorative justice? And in some of my reading for this class and this past week, that how we see the Bible. And I'm actually in conversation with a professor that I had last fall, but who's done some research on this, and I want to do a little bit more research on it, but that the entire Bible is based on a model of restorative justice. Now, think about that for a minute. For those of you who know much or very little about the Bible, God created everything. God set it up as this perfect garden. It didn't work. It was sent out. Adam and Eve were sent out, and from there, in that process, if we read through the Bible, how has God sought to restore a close relationship with humanity in these thousands and thousands of years? From sending, Abraham, from connecting with him, to having, the nation that is to be a light to the other nations, to Noah and to Moses, to create new laws, to the prophets who sought to remind people and bring them back, in various places. Jeremiah, Micah, Zechariah, all of these places talk about this notion of justice and mercy and compassion that God has on all people. And what does that mean for all of us? And how then, does that enlighten us to this notion of Jesus as servant of all? And so I encourage you, and I hope I challenge you a little bit to stay, to experience some of that a little differently, and to think about that a little bit more deeply. Feel free to leave your comments, whether you agree or disagree. I'm okay with either one. I'm more willing to have some more conversation about that, and to continue to grow with that and what that might mean. But also, what does it mean for us moving forward? What does it mean for you as we move ever closer to Easter, to this season of celebration that's not just about bunnies and Easter eggs, but how do we see one another? How do we see the world? And how do we see Jesus if we give him the title that he claimed as servant of all in all that we do. And I invite you, if you do that, if you feel like doing that for the next day or week or whatever, let me know, and I'm curious to know how that works. If that does anything impactful for you. So I thank you all for checking it out again. I'm not able to see anybody, so I want to thank you all. I pray you have a blessed St. Patrick's Day, that you enjoy all of those wonderful Irish activities and all of those delicacies from Ireland, because there are quite a few. I remember spending some time. I got to spend a week in Ireland when I was in college. I spent a semester over in England and got to spend a week in Dublin. And one of the things that I love to make, and I'll be making it this week, is Irish soda bread. But when I went to Ireland, when I went to Dublin, we went out to, we took the train out to the Last Point House, which was right on the coast. And we found this little pub, and we had some lunch, and they had this Irish soda bread, but it was whole wheat and cornmeal. And it was just so good. And so ever since then, I've tried to recreate it, and I think I have pretty much have it figured out how to do it. So I'm really excited to have that and have some time to just bask in the celebration of what it means to have some of that heritage. So thank you all for taking some time with me. I hope you have a blessed day wherever you are and whenever this finds you. And we will see you again soon. Take care. God bless everybody.